the kind of enthusiasm and captivating storytelling that we've witnessed in the ongoing X-Men 97, maybe it's time to say with conviction that Marvel is back in the groove after some disappointing outings. The 3-part season finale of X-Men 97, titled Tolerance is Extinction, has just one episode left, and after the eventful second part of the grand finale, we can't help but wonder what happens next. Yes, that's precisely what we're going to do in this video: speculate the potential narratives of the final episode, and also the possible story arc going ahead in Season 2.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Genosha, I felt a lot of things. But the scariest thing about Genosha wasn't the death.
How does Tolerance is Extinction Part 2 set up the narrative? It's not often that we come across an animated series so engaging and exciting that the waiting period till the next episode is simply agonizing. X-Men 97 has done that so far, with considerable success, and the season finale has been set up perfectly for one final bout. Previously, we've seen how Bastion threatened the entire mutant race with his twisted creation, the Prime Sentinels. Together with Mr. Sinister, he worked out a master plan to eliminate a majority of mutants and turn the survivors into slaves for humans. Meanwhile, Magneto seeks revenge for the massacre on Genosha, and he's done with his peaceful and polite measures. The previous episode also sprung up a surprise with the appearance of Professor Xavier, and the episode ended with Magneto launching a powerful electromagnetic pulse across the planet that depowered all the Prime Sentinels and also took out a majority of human infrastructure. Tolerance is Extinction Part 2 starts off with Professor Xavier reunited with his X-Men, even though some members of the team, like Cyclops and Rogue, are not exactly pleased with his decision of handing over the reins to Magneto, which clearly proved to be a mistake. Storm and Forge rejoin the team, and the X-Men clearly need every bit of support they can get. We get to witness the true extent of the damage caused by Magneto's attack on humanity, and Professor Xavier promises President Kelly that the X-Men will set things back in order. What follows is some elaborate planning, where Cyclops decides that the team would split up into two and attack Magneto and Bastion simultaneously. They need to reverse the damage done by Magneto, but the threat posed by Bastion cannot be ignored. Professor Xavier gets another unpleasant surprise when Rogue and Sunspot abandon the team and side with Magneto, clearly highlighting the beginning of a mini-civil war. The attack goes on as planned, and a team comprising of Storm, Jean Grey, Forge, Cable, Beast, and Morph set out to deal with Bastion in his lair. Meanwhile, the other team, led by Cyclops and Professor X, includes the likes of Jubilee and Wolverine as they head out to fight Magneto. Both teams meet with their share of challenges, but there are 3 defining moments in this conflict. Firstly, Storm and Forge are shot out of the skies by a Sentinel attack, and they both seem to be knocked out of the fight for the time being. Secondly, Jean Grey is targeted by Mr. Sinister once again, and the evil mastermind uses Cable to attack her after mind-controlling the mutant from the future. She seemingly dies after the overwhelming force of Cable is too much to deal with, and sends a final telepathic message to Cyclops to let him know about her love for him. Lastly, the defining moment of the episode perhaps comes in the final moments, as Professor Xavier and the X-Men try in vain to subdue Magneto. After nothing seems to work, Wolverine manages to knock out Magneto's helmet, allowing a brief opportunity for Xavier to psychically attack him. However, the message from Jean makes Cyclops realize that the other team needs more time, and he interrupts the attack. This proves to be a mistake, and Magneto wastes no time in cornering the X-Men. As a last-ditch attempt, Wolverine stabs Magneto with his claws, but the repercussion brings us one of the most graphic and terrifying moments from the comic books in the Fatal Attraction story arc. Magneto rips out all the adamantium from Wolverine's body, and the mutant superhero can be seen struggling in pain as the episode ends. Did the show just kill off Wolverine? You can hold your horses on this one, and anyone concerned about Wolverine dying from this attack by Magneto can breathe easy. This mutant's healing ability is just too strong, which simply doesn't allow him to die. In the comic books, this injury leaves a lasting impact on Wolverine, and he spends a lot of time without adamantium in his system, but he proves to be just as effective with his bone claws. He surely doesn't die from the impact, although it is a near-death experience for him, and he even gets his revenge on Magneto by severely injuring him in a later fight. Moreover, another comic book narrative explores how Wolverine gets his adamantium back after serving Apocalypse as one of his horsemen briefly. He does take a break from the X-Men, and his days following the forcible adamantium secretion from his body are spent trying to find himself and fighting guys like Sabretooth and Deadpool. He realizes that his bone claws are also pretty effective, and things can take a similar turn in the show as well. As for the next episode, we expect Wolverine to recover partially, and if he fights at all, expect his bone claws in action. However, this might be a great chance to introduce Apocalypse in the show, which we'll discuss in the following segment.
comprehend my reality, now taste the power of Apocalypse!
Will Apocalypse and Onslaught be seen in X-Men 97? There's a lot of talk around the potential appearance of Apocalypse in the show, and we have good reason to believe that this might be on the cards. Apocalypse in this timeline is not dead, and his comeback will deliver a solid X-Men villain for the upcoming season. This might be a great way to bring back Gambit as one of his horsemen, although it's more likely that the show will use Wolverine as one of his horsemen as well in order to reinstate his adamantium. Can we see him in the next episode? While his presence in the next season is almost certain, we don't know if a solitary episode will be enough to fit his story arc properly. Maybe you can get a glimpse of him coming into the picture in the final moments of the episode, and that might be a kind of incentive provided for the viewers as they wait for the next season. Onslaught, on the other hand, is another likely villain who can make an appearance in the next episode. He is a psionic entity created from the minds of Professor Xavier and Magneto. Basically, after Magneto's vicious attack on Wolverine, Xavier loses his composure and launches a fiery psychic strike on Magneto, brain-wiping him completely. His darkest thoughts along with Magneto's evil side make up Onslaught, and given the current circumstances, we might just see him walk into the action in the next episode. If the showrunners decide to hold him back, you can expect him to appear in the next season for sure.
Your powers. Restored, thanks to Forge.
Please. Aurora's doing
What will happen to Storm, Forge, and Jean Grey? Given how Storm and Forge crash into the ground after their attempt to distract the Prime Sentinels fails, many are wondering if the characters have been killed off. Well, Storm is literally a weather goddess and an Omega-level mutant, so you can be sure that she will not be dead from a mere Sentinel attack knocking her out. Forge, on the other hand, is more likely to be killed, but even he is far too important, and we believe that the show has killed off enough key characters already. We expect both of them to recover in quick time and rejoin the action in the next episode. Jean Grey is another addition to this list of those who are seemingly down and out in this episode. It almost looks like she gives up during her fight with Cable because of her love for him, even though she's not his real mother. There's always her Phoenix Force connection that should be considered, and given how the intro of the show keeps showing the Phoenix, it might be time for an appearance. It will be a great way to revive her, and we don't think she will be kept out of the action for too long. It also remains to be seen how her absence will impact Cyclops, because we don't have a good feeling about his reaction to the tragedy. Poor guy has already lost far too much because of his faith in Professor Xavier, and now might be the time to snap, if Jean Grey is not brought back soon enough.
my X-Men.
Can we expect a lot of action from Professor Xavier? In one of the earlier episodes in the series, we've seen Professor Xavier walking around thanks to the Shi'ar armor. The comic book storyline where he brainwipes Magneto after his attack on Wolverine also shows him in this armor, and you can expect his psychic powers to play a major role in the season finale. Magneto is not going to be convinced to reverse the process willingly, and Wolverine's condition might just push the Professor over the edge. We have already seen a tiny glimpse of what his psychic powers can do to Magneto, and we expect more of that in the next episode. This can also be a great way to reverse the damage done by him, and Magneto will be out of commission for a while.
Here, the next bit's a pill for your auntie. My techs repaired a damaged alien satellite.
Are Bastion and Mr. Sinister going to be dealt with? We don't think that these two recurring villains in this season will be left with an open-ended climax. A major reason behind the situation that the X-Men find themselves in is because of their conspiracies, and we expect justice at the end of Season 1. With Jean Grey currently out of the system, Storm can show her fury in destroying Bastion's base completely. Once Cable recovers, you can be sure that he will be gearing up for revenge on Mr. Sinister for manipulating him into attacking Jean Grey. These will not be dragged into the next season, and we believe that a decisive climax is coming to you in a week's time. Will the Prime Sentinels be restored back to their human form? There have been a few hints dropped in the episode that explain how the process is not impossible and the genetic rewriting on humans can be undone. With Beast and Forge, two of the best minds among the X-Men working together, it is surely a possibility. In the next episode, there's also a chance that we'll discover Bastion having a secret cure for the condition. In that case, the X-Men can simply take the formula and use it to turn the frozen, statue-like, depowered Prime Sentinels back to their human selves. We're quite positive on these developments because they will be a crucial part of the closure that the near-perfect Season 1 truly deserves.
Without warning, Magneto's thrown the entire planet back centuries.
I can feel the Earth's magnetic...
Is the dynamic among the X-Men set to change? The X-Men are not necessarily the best of friends, but somehow the team always finds a greater purpose to fight for together. That being said, there have been enough cracks in the relationship between some of the X-Men to suggest that the team might not be the same going ahead. For starters, ever since Professor Xavier has returned, Cyclops has not been on the best of terms with him. The likes of Rogue and Sunspot have already made their displeasure with Professor Xavier's perfect theory of human-mutant coexistence quite evident, and Cyclops seems to be the next in line. He's sticking with the team only because he realizes the actual threat that looms large, and also because of the love of his life, Jean Grey. If Jean is killed off for the time being, that will take away a major incentive for him to be part of the team. Expect Cyclops to stray from the X-Men after the dust settles on the ruins of the world. Wolverine too might set out to explore himself after losing all the adamantium in his body, just like he does in the comic books. It will also be a perfect premise for Season 2 of X-Men 97 if some of the key members are missing, and only a greater crisis brings them back together again. It'll be a great way to bring back Jean Grey as well, because Cyclops will surely rejoin the X-Men if Jean is back. We're also intrigued to find out how Magneto's story arc turns out, and how his equation with the X-Men and Professor Xavier will remain. Rogue and Sunspot, who are currently serving him, might not rejoin the X-Men as soon as you would expect, and if they all go their separate ways, we have reason to believe that Rogue and Sunspot are far too frustrated with the peacekeeping activities of the X-Men to bother about joining back up. Can we expect things to be left on a cliffhanger for Season 2? It was only a matter of time before X-Men 97 got the approval for a second season, given the widespread success and positive response of the first season. Finally, it's been confirmed that we will have at least a couple more seasons in the series, and this does leave the possibility of a cliffhanger ending to take things forward in the next season. So far, the story has been spread wide enough that there are plenty of loose ends for the showrunners to tie up in one final episode, even if it has a longer duration of around 45 minutes. As we've already discussed in this video, the fates of Wolverine and Jean Grey hang in the balance. The introduction of notable villains like Onslaught and Apocalypse seems to be on the cards, but one episode is hardly big enough to accommodate them. So given the circumstances, here's what we expect. The immediate threat to humanity will be resolved, and the destruction caused by Magneto will be reversed to some extent. Bastion and his army of Prime Sentinels will also be dealt with in all likelihood, and you can expect a temporary closure, if not a perfect one. However, certain things in the narrative have a far-reaching impact that simply cannot be ignored. Wolverine's recovery, for instance, is an entire story arc by itself, and you can expect that to be resolved only in the next season. We believe something similar for the likes of Apocalypse and Onslaught as well, and these villains might be introduced only in the next season. As for the dynamics between the team, the beginning of the changes and the strained relationships might be visible in the Season 1 finale, but the true extent of the damage will probably be held back for the upcoming season. We would love to hear from you in the comments below about your thoughts on the gripping first season of X-Men 97. Do share your views on what might happen to give us the perfect closure in the final episode, and also tell us about the possible fate of the likes of Wolverine, Magneto, and Jean Grey going ahead.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.